Imagine standing in the marbled halls of Nero's palace 67 CE, where gold glints and incense chokes the air like a bad perfume ad. The emperor draped in purple paces with a feverish glint in his eyes, muttering about Poppaea Sabina, his dead wife. Her face haunts him, those sharp cheekbones, that cascade of curls gone forever, or so he thought. Then he sees Sporus, a slave boy, barely past youth, with eyes and lips that mirror Poppaea's like some cosmic prank. You'd think Nero's just nostalgic, but no, this is obsession dialed to 11, a Roman soap opera gone horribly wrong. Nero's court buzzes with whispers, courtiers swapping glances like they're stuck in a reality TV confessional. He's lost it, they hiss as Nero fixates on Sporus, his gaze crawling over the boy's frame. The emperor's not just mourning, he's rewriting reality, demanding the impossible. Sporus, a nobody, a speck in Rome's brutal hierarchy, becomes the key to Nero's delusion. You can almost hear the emperor's thoughts. If I can't have Poppaea, I'll make her. It's the kind of unhinged plan you'd expect from a guy who thinks he's God King, but even for Nero, this is next-level madness. Picture yourself in the crowd watching Nero's golden chariot roll through Rome's streets, Sporus at his side, a pale imitation of Poppaea. The city's pulse quickens, not with joy, but with dread. Sporus, this poor kid, isn't just a lookalike. He's a canvas for Nero's grief, soon to be painted in blood and silk. The emperor's orders are clear: transform the boy whatever the cost. You wince, imagining the blade, the screams, the sheer audacity of it all. Nero's not just breaking taboos, he's torching them, grinning like he's invented love itself. The court's sycophants play along their smiles tight as they toast Nero's genius. You'd laugh if it weren't so grim. Imagine a CEO today announcing his new wife is a surgically altered intern. Decks would explode and Rome's no different. The gossip's already spreading like wildfire. Sporus, meanwhile, is a ghost in his own story, his voice drowned by Nero's whims. You can't help but feel the weight of his fate, a kid caught in an emperor's fever dream. Nero's obsession isn't love, it's power, twisting a human into a prop for his broken heart. And yet Rome watches mesmerised by the scandal. The streets hum with rumours, each one wilder than the last. You're there, caught in the crowd, your stomach churning as Nero's delusion unfolds. This isn't just a marriage, it's a spectacle, a grotesque display of imperial excess that'll be whispered about for centuries. Like Cher tell us, would you survive a day in Nero's court? Good luck. You're in a dim stone-walled room in Nero's Rome, 67 CE, where the air's thick with sweat and dread. Sporus, barely a shadow of a boy, lies strapped to a wooden table, his eyes wide with terror. The surgeon, some grim-faced butcher with a blade sharp as betrayal, steps forward. Nero's orders were clear: make Sporus a bride, no matter the cost. The knife glints and you want to look away, but the horror pins you in place. This isn't surgery, it's a ritual sacrifice to an emperor's madness, a twisted makeover for a ghost. The blade bites and Sporus' scream cuts sharper than the knife itself, echoing off the walls like a curse. Blood pools dark and slick as the room fills with the coppery stench of violence. Third person. Now the boy's body trembles, his identity carved away with each brutal stroke. Nero's nowhere near properly sipping wine in his gilded palace, but his obsession drives this cruelty. The surgeons work fast, their hands steady, as if they've done this before. Rome's no stranger to blood. Sporus' youth, his humanity, it's all collateral damage in Nero's quest to resurrect Poppaea. You're back in the scene, stomach churning as the deed's done. Sporus lies pale, a broken doll, while attendants mop the floor like it's just another day. The court whispers of the emperor's whim, but you know better. This is power, raw and grotesque. Reshaping a boy into a fantasy. Imagine this on X. Emperor mutilates slave to play pretend wife. Thoughts? The replies would be savage, and rightly so. Rome's elite call it an abomination, but they still bow to Nero, spineless as ever. The aftermath is quiet, save for Sporus' ragged breaths. He's no longer just a slave. He's a symbol, a living wound dressed up as a bride. The surgeons wrap him in cloth, their faces blank, but you feel the weight of their complicity. Nero's delusion demands this. His love is a blade-carving reality to fit his grief. You'd think this is where the story peaks, but it's only the start. Sporus will be paraded veiled and broken while Rome gawks. It's a horror show and you're stuck in the front row. This isn't just a cut. It's a theft of voice of self of survival. The room's shadows seem to whisper Sporus' lost name, a faint echo of who he was. Nero's court will move on toasting their tyrant, but you're left with the bloodstains, the screams, the sheer wrongness of it all. Share this tale if you dare. Would you last a day in Nero's Rome? Bet you wouldn't. You're in a dimly lit chamber of Nero's palace, 67 CE, where the air's heavy with rosewater and dread. Sporus stands, trembling, a broken silhouette as attendants swarm him like vultures draping their prey in silk. They wrap him in a bridal veil, its gossamer threads shimmering like a spider's web, catching the torchlight. The fabric clings to his skin heavy as shame, and the cloying perfume stings your nose. Think of a department store spritz gone wrong, but with a side of existential horror. Sporus' eyes dart, searching for escape, but there's none. He's a doll in Nero's twisted playhouse. The attendants work with grim precision, pinning golden clasps, draping crimson robes, each fold a mockery of a bride's joy. You're there in the crowd of onlookers, your stomach twisting as they paint his lips red, smearing colour over a face pale as death. Third person. Now Sporus' body, still raw from the surgeon's blade, sways under the weight of the costume. The veil, a Roman flammeum, marks him as Nero's wife, but it's a shroud, not a celebration. The attendants whisper praises, how like Poppaea, but their voices crack, betraying their unease. Nero's delusion demands this masquerade, and Rome plays along because who says no to a tyrant? Back to you standing among the jeering courtiers, their laughter sharp as broken glass. Look at the emperor's new bride, one sneers, and you want to scream at the cruelty of it. Sporus' hands shake as they adjust the veil, his fingers brushing the silk like it's a chain. Imagine this going viral today, ex-post screaming emperor dresses slave as dead wife. Thoughts. The replies would be brutal, but here the crowd's jeers are the algorithm amplifying the spectacle. Sporus is no longer a boy, he's a prop, a living ghost of Poppaea forced into a role no one could survive sane. The chamber buzzes with nervous energy, the air thick with the scent of wax and fear. Nero's not here yet, but his presence looms a shadow dictating every stitch. The attendants step back, their work done, and Sporus stands alone, a figure both pitiful and grotesque. You feel the urge to look away, but the scene grips you. His eyes, hollowed by pain, meet yours for a fleeting second. It's a silent plea drowned by the court's cruel chatter. This isn't a wedding, it's a funeral for Sporus' self wrapped in silk and sold as love. The veil sways as Sporus moves a step toward his fate. You're stuck, watching your heart pounding as the crowd's mockery grows louder. Rome's elite call it scandalous, but they'll cheer when Nero arrives, spineless as ever. Share this if you dare. Could you stomach this court's cruelty? Spoiler, you'd probably run. Picture yourself in Rome's sun-baked streets, 67 CE, the cobblestones vibrating with the roar of a crowd. Nero's golden chariot rolls forward, gleaming like a tacky influencer's ride, and beside him sits Sporus, veiled and silent, the emperor's bride. The procession's a spectacle, a fever dream of opulence musicians, blaring horns, slaves tossing petals, and Nero grinning like he's won the ultimate reality show. You're there shoulder to shoulder with gawking Romans, your nose wrinkling at the mix of incense and sweat. This isn't a wedding march, it's a parade of madness, and you're stuck in the front row. Third person now, Sporus sits rigid, the crimson veil trembling with each jolt of the chariot. His eyes, barely visible, are pools of dread reflecting a city that both mocks and fears him. Nero waves his smile wide, oblivious to the whispers of abomination rippling through the crowd. The elite draped in togas mutter behind their hands, quoting Suetonius's future scorn. This is a disgrace, a perversion of Roman honour. Yet no one stops it. Nero's power is a blade, and dissenters know better than to test it. The procession snakes through the forum, a grotesque carnival of imperial excess. Back to you, jostled by the mob, your throat tight with disgust. The crowd's a mix of jeers and gasps, some laugh, others spit, but all are hooked on the drama. Nero's new wife, a vendor, shouts sarcastic as a tabloid headline. You catch a glimpse of Sporus' hand gripping the chariot's edge, knuckles white. Imagine this Onyx Emperor parade's mutilated slave as bride. Viral or vile? The comments would be merciless, but Rome's no different. Gossip's the currency, and this scandal's pure gold. Sporus' silence screams louder than the horns a boy trapped in a tyrant's fantasy. The chariot halts, and Nero lifts Sporus' veil for the crowd, a gesture dripping with mockery. You wince as the boy's face is bared pale and painted a ghost of Poppaea forced into flesh. The crowd's roar peaks, but there's an eerie undertone like whispers of a curse. Nero's defiance is palpable. He doesn't care if Rome calls it obscene. He's rewriting love power reality itself. You're left breathless, caught between horror and fascination as the procession moves on, leaving dust and dread in its wake. This spectacle isn't just a wedding. It's Nero's middle finger to Rome's norms. You're there watching Sporus vanish into the emperor's shadow, a boy erased by silk and ambition. Like Cher Tellus, could you endure this parade of cruelty? Bet you'd bolt. You're weaving through Rome's crowded forum, 67 CE, where the air hums with the buzz of scandal. Nero's marriage to Sporus, that mutilated boy draped in her bride's veil, a set tongues wagging, and you're caught in the thick of it. Senators in their pristine togas huddle under colonnades, their whispers sharp as daggers, an abomination one hisses echoing what Suetonius will later scribble in his histories. The elite clutch their wine cups, faces twisted in disgust, but you notice their eyes glint with fascination. This isn't just gossip, it's the kind of viral scandal that would crash X's servers today. Third person now Rome's aristocracy, bound by tradition, can't stomach Nero's audacity. The emperor's taken a slave, carved him into a mockery of Poppaea, and called it a marriage. Suetonius, years later, will brand it a disgrace, a stain on Rome's honour, but in this moment, the elite are trapped. They mutter of perversion and madness, yet none dare speak too loudly. Nero's spies are everywhere, and his temper's a guillotine. The city's pulse races torn between horror and morbid curiosity, as if watching a chariot wreck in slow motion. Back to you, brushing past a merchant who mutters, "The gods curse this farce." The crowd's a mix of shock and glee, like rubberneckers at a modern tabloid train wreck. Imagine the ex-post emperor marries mutilated slave. Rome's cancelled him, right? The replies would be savage, half, calling Nero a monster, half eating up the drama. But here the outrage is whispered, not tweeted, because defying Nero means a one-way ticket to exile or worse. You feel the tension, the way fear chokes their words, turning disgust into hushed murmurs. The scandal ripples beyond the forum into taverns and tenements. A priest shakes his head, muttering of divine wrath, while a poet scribbles verses mocking Nero's bride. You catch snippets, cruel jests about Sporus' veil, dark predictions of Rome's fall. It's a circus of judgment, but no one stops the show. The elite's horror is real, yet they'll cheer at Nero's next banquet, spineless as ever. You're left reeling, the city's hypocrisy as suffocating as the dust in the air. Share this tale? Would you dare whisper against Nero? Doubt it. You're seated at a lavish banquet in Nero's palace, 67 CE, where golden platters gleam and wine flows like a river. Sporus, the emperor's bride, sits at Nero's side, draped in silks that shimmer like a prison. His face, painted to mimic Poppaea, is a mask of rouge and despair, his eyes darting like a trapped animal's. You shift uncomfortably, the clink of goblets and forced laughter grating against the silence of his suffering. This is no marriage. It's a gilded cage, and you're watching a boy drown in Nero's delusion. Third person now, Sporus moves like a ghost through the banquet hall, his every step dictated by Nero's whims. The emperor, radiant with self-satisfaction, calls him my Poppaea, his voice dripping with possessive pride. Courtiers force smiles, toasting the happy couple, but their eyes betray disgust. Sporus' silks, embroidered with gold, weigh him down, each fold a reminder of his stolen self. He's no longer a boy, not even a slave, just a prop in Nero's grotesque theatre, paraded for Rome's elite to gawk at. Back to you, your stomach twisting as Sporus passes his perfume, a sickly cloud. The crowd's whispers cut sharper than knives, pathetic, unnatural. You want to look away, but his presence grips you, a living tragedy in crimson robes. Imagine this Onyx Emperor forces slave into wife's role. Who's the real victim? The replies would tear Nero apart, but in Rome the crowd just stares complicit in their silence. Sporus's hands tremble so system as he lifts a goblet, a faint tremor betraying his fear. You're there among the onlookers, your heart pounding with a mix of pity and horror. Nero's arm snakes around Sporus, a possessive gesture that feels like a shackle. The boy's painted lips part slightly, but no sound escapes a silent scream in a golden cage. The banquet rolls on a parade of excess-roasted peacock-honeyed figs and endless wine. Nero's laughter booms, oblivious to the undercurrent of dread. You catch a glimpse of Sporus's eyes, hollowed by pain, and it hits you he's a prisoner in plain sight, his identity erased by silk and imperial whim. Picture this going viral. Emperor parades mutilated wife at feast. Thoughts the internet would riot, but Rome's elite just sip their wine, their cowardice louder than their whispers. You're stuck in this moment, the air thick with opulence and cruelty, unable to look away. Sporus's role as wife is a performance, every gesture choreographed by Nero's obsession. The silks cling to him, a mockery of freedom, each fold a chain. You feel the weight of his existence, a life reduced to a costume for a tyrant's fantasy. The crowd's murmurs grow bolder, hints of rebellion quickly hushed. Nero's power is a shadow over the room, and Sporus is its darkest victim. Like Tellus, could you survive this gilded hell? You'd be running for the hills? You're standing in Nero's opulent treasury, 67 CE, where gold coins spill like a miser's fever dream, and jewels glint like stars in a polluted sky. The Emperor's preparing a dowry for Sporus's bride, and it's a spectacle that'd make a modern wedding planner weep. Chests overflow with silver denarii, emerald necklaces, and bolts of Tyrian purple silk, each item a fortune enough to feed Rome's poor for years. You choke on the irony. This lavish pile isn't for love, but for a grotesque charade. A boy carved into a bride to soothe Nero's grief. It's a wedding budget from hell, and you're witnessing its unholy assembly. Third person now, the dowry's excess is deliberate, a statement of Nero's power. Attendants catalogue treasures, golden goblets, ivory combs, perfumes from distant Parthia, while Sporus stands silent, draped in robes that cost more than his life ever did. The Emperor's orders were clear, no expense spared to make his Poppaea shine, but the splendour hides cruelty. Each coin is a reminder of Sporus's stolen humanity, his body and soul bartered for Nero's delusion. The court marvels at the wealth, but their whispers betray unease. This isn't a marriage, it's a transaction sealed in blood. Back to you, your eyes stinging from the incense swirling around the treasure heaps. The attendants move like drones, piling riches at Sporus's feet, but his face is a mask, pale beneath the paint. You'd laugh at the absurdity if it weren't so grim. Imagine this on ex-emperor drops millions on slave bride's dowry. Peak flex or peak madness. The replies would savage Nero, but here the court just nods their greed, outweighing their disgust. You feel the weight of it all the way. Opulence buries Sporus deeper, his identity crushed under gold and silk. The dowry is paraded through Rome, a glittering insult to the city's starving masses. You're in the crowd, watching slaves haul chests past jeering onlookers. For a slave, a woman scoffs, her voice dripping with contempt. Nero's flaunting his power, but it's Sporus who pays the price, his every step a reminder of his cage. The treasures gleam, but their chains binding him to a role he never chose. Share this if you dare. Could you stomach this display of cruel excess? Bet you'd gag. You're crammed into a banquet hall in Nero's palace, 67 CE, where the air's thick with wine and hypocrisy. The Emperor lounges at the head table, his arms slung around Sporus's bride, who sits rigid in crimson silks. Nero's voice booms, calling Sporus my Poppaea, his grin wide as if Rome's cheers are genuine. The courtiers clap their smiles tighter than a noose, but you feel the tension the way their eyes flicker with scorn. This is Nero's delusion in full bloom, a love story only he believes, and you're stuck in the awkward front row. Third person now, Nero's displays of affection are relentless, his hand brushing Sporus's veil as if caressing a ghost. The boy's face, painted to mimic Poppaea, is a frozen mask, his eyes betraying a silent scream. The court watches their toasts hollow as Nero declares his wife the jewel of Rome. The Emperor's blind to their disdain, his obsession a shield against reality. Sporus, meanwhile, is a prop forced to play a role that erases him. The banquet's opulence, roasted boar-gilded cups, only underscores the grotesque lie at its heart. Back to you, your stomach churning as Nero lifts Sporus's hand, kissing it with theatrical flair. The crowd's murmurs grow sharp, someone mutters disgrace, but it's swallowed by the music. Imagine this on ex-emperor fawns over mutilated wife at gala. Romantic or unhinged, the comments would tear him apart, but Rome's elite just sip their wine spineless as ever. You catch Sporus's gaze, a fleeting plea lost in the din. He's a prisoner in silk trapped in Nero's fantasy, and the room feels like it's closing in. Nero's delusion paints every gesture, every glance with a lover's glow, but it's a lie that chokes the air. You're there watching Sporus shrink under the Emperor's touch, his identity buried beneath the applause. The court's complicity is deafening, they cheer, but their eyes scream betrayal. This isn't love, it's a tyrant's tantrum, and Sporus is its victim. Like Cher Tellus, could you endure this farce of a feast, you'd probably bolt. You're in a shadowed corner of Nero's palace, 67 CE, where torchlight flickers like a dying pulse. Sporus stands alone for a fleeting moment, his bridal silks clinging like a second skin, the crimson veil a shroud over his hollowed face. His eyes, rimmed with kohl, stare into nothing, but you feel the weight of his unspoken scream, a silent wail that hums in the air like a curse. The palace's opulence, marble floors, gilded walls, feels like a tomb, and you're trapped with him, your breath catching at the eerie stillness of his torment. This isn't a bride's joy. It's a boy's erasure, a life crushed under Nero's obsession. Third person now, Sporus' existence is a paradox, a slave elevated to empress, yet stripped of all agency. His body, scarred from the surgeon's blade, moves mechanically, each step a performance for Nero's delusion. Shadows seem to cling to him, as if Rome's gods whisper disapproval, their voices lost in the clink of banquet goblets. He's a ghost in his own story, his thoughts locked behind painted lips. The court ignores his pain, their laughter a cruel backdrop to his silent agony, but the air feels heavy, charged with the weight of a life stolen. Back to you, standing close enough to see Sporus' trembling hands, his fingers twisting the edge of his veil. You want to speak, to break the silence, but what words could reach him? His gaze flickers, meeting yours for a heartbeat, and it's like staring into a void, grief-fear, and something darker, unnameable. Imagine this on X. Slave turned bride screams in silence. Is Nero's Rome the real hell? The replies would rage, but here the court's too busy toasting Nero to notice. You feel the chill of his despair, a cold that seeps into your bones, making the palace's splendour feel like a mockery. The moment passes and Sporus is swept back into Nero's orbit, his scream swallowed by the Emperor's laughter. You're left with the after-image, his eyes, his trembling hands, the shadows that seem to follow him. Rome's gossip will call him a curiosity, a scandal, but you know he's a victim. His silence louder than any cry. Share this if you can bear it. Could you face Sporus' pain without flinching? You'd probably look away. You're at another of Nero's lavish feasts, 67 CE, where the air's thick with wine and cowardice. Sporus, the Emperor's bride, sits beside him, a painted ghost in silken robes, while courtiers raise goblets and force cheers. Their smiles are tight, their eyes darting, but none dare speak against Nero's farce of a marriage. You're among them, your skin crawling as they toast the happy couple, each clink of glass, a betrayal of Sporus' suffering. This is Rome's elite at their spineless best, enabling a tyrant's tantrum like groupies at a bad concert. Third person now. The court's complicity is a silent pact forged in fear of Nero's wrath. Senators, poets, and generals, men who'd sneer at Sporus in private, bow to the Emperor's delusion, calling the boy Poppaea with strained voices. Their togas, pristine and costly, can't hide their shame. They know this marriage is a grotesque mockery, yet they clap like trained dogs. Nero, oblivious or uncaring, basks in their praise, his arm around Sporus, a claim of ownership. The boy's silence is deafening, but the court's louder, their applause drowning out any hint of dissent. Back to you, your throat tight as you watch a senator mutter to his neighbour, only to fall silent under a guard's glare. The hypocrisy is suffocating, these are Rome's best. yet they're as trapped as Sporus, chained by fear. Imagine this on his elite cheer emperor's slave wife, while gagging inside. Who's worse, Nero or them? The replies would roast them all, but here the court just smiles their cowardice, a second cage for Sporus. You feel the urge to shout to shatter their facade, but the air's heavy with Nero's power, and you're just another face in the crowd. The feast drags on Sporus, a silent statue beside Nero, while the courtiers' laughter grows hollow. You see their glances, fleeting moments of pity or disgust, but none at cowardice is their currency. Nero's delusion thrives on their silence, and Sporus pays the price. Like Cher, tell us, could you stomach this court's spinelessness? Bet you'd choke. You're elbowing through Rome's packed streets, 67 CE, where the stench of sweat and bread mingles with the buzz of scandal. Nero's marriage to Sporus, the slave boy turned bride, is the talk of every tavern market and alley. A fishmonger leans over a stall, grinning as he tells a crowd, the emperor's got himself a new papaya cut to fit. Laughter erupts sharp and cruel, but you catch the edge of unease in their voices. This gossip's spreading faster than a wildfire, Rome's own ancient tabloid, and you're caught in the chatter's current. Third person now, the city's pulse throbs with rumours each wilder than the last. Commoners from bakers to beggars spin tales of Nero's wedding. Some say Sporus is a witch, others that Nero's cursed by the gods. The streets hum with mockery. A slave in a veil, Nero's lost his marbles. Yet beneath the jests lies fear, speak too loudly, and Nero's spies might drag you to the dungeons. The gossips are released a way to laugh at the emperor's madness without risking a noose. It's Rome's version of a viral thread, and everyone's got a take. Back to you, dodging a cart as a woman hawks her wares, shouting, "Buy a charm to ward off Nero's lunacy." The crowd roars, but their eyes dart wary of guards. You hear snippets, a sailor claims Sporus's eyes glow like a demon's, a washerwoman swears the gods will smite Rome for this. Imagine this on ex-emperor's slave wife sparks city-wide gossip. Cursed or just crazy, the replies would be savage memes flying, but here the rumours are whispered past like contraband. You feel the city's pulse alive with scorn and dread, as if the streets themselves are judging Nero. The gossip swirls, a mix of humour and horror, but it's Sporus who haunts you. His name's on every tongue, yet he's voiceless. A boy buried under Rome's chatter. You're swept along your heart, heavy with the cruelty of it. All Nero's spectacle has made Sporus a punchline. Share this if you dare. Could you laugh with Rome's mob knowing the truth? Bet you'd choke on the words. You're in a quiet Roman library years after 67 CE, where the scent of parchment and ink hangs heavy. Historians like Suetonius scribble furiously their quills, scratching out Nero's reign with venom. The marriage to Sporus, that grotesque spectacle of a slave-turned bride, is their favourite scandal. An abomination, Suetonius writes his words, dripping with disdain, as if Nero's madness could stain the very page. You're reading over their shoulders, your skin prickling at the judgment they heap on a boy who had no choice. Third person now, Suetonius and his peers, chroniclers of Rome's glory and decay, spare no mercy for Nero's folly. They describe the wedding in vivid detail, the veil, the dowry, Sporus's painted face as a symbol of imperial rot. Nero defiled Roman honour, one writes, branding the emperor a tyrant who mocked the gods. Their accounts are sharp, laced with righteous scorn, yet they skirt Sporus's suffering, reducing him to a footnote in Nero's infamy. These historians, safe in their later years, wield their pens like swords, but their outrage feels distant, a luxury Sporus never had. Back to you, your fingers tracing the parchment's edge, the words burning with contempt. Suetonius calls Nero's love a perversion, but you wonder about the boy beneath the veil, his pain ignored by these lofty scribes. Imagine this on ex-historians roast Nero's slave marriage. Justice or too late? The replies would debate some praising the takedown, others noting Sporus's erasure. Here the historian's scorn is Rome's final word, a verdict that buries the boy's humanity under Nero's crimes. You feel the weight of their judgment as cold as the marble around you. Their words will echo through centuries, branding Nero a monster, Sporus a curiosity. You're left with the chill of it. History's pen is merciless, but it's Sporus's silence that haunts. Like Cher, tell us, Could you write Sporus' story without flinching, you'd probably pause. You're standing outside Nero's private chambers, 67 CE, where the air feels thick with secrets and dread. The heavy curtains sway, casting shadows that seem to whisper, and you catch a glimpse of Sporus the Emperor's bride stepping into the dimly lit room. His crimson veil trails like a bloodstain, his painted face a mask of resignation. You want to turn away, but the eerie silence pulls you in a chill creeping up your spine as the door closes. This isn't a bridal bed. It's a stage for Nero's delusion, and Sporus is its unwilling star. Third person now. The chamber's darkness cloaks Sporus' torment, the boy's silhouette barely visible against the flickering lamps. Nero's voice, low and possessive, calls him Poppaea, each syllable a chain binding Sporus to a role he cannot escape. The bed draped in silks and strewn with rose petals is no sanctuary. Its opulence mocks the boy's stolen humanity. Whispers seem to linger in the air as if Rome's gods watch in silent judgment, their presence a faint hum of disapproval. Sporus' nights are a mystery, but their weight is palpable, a shadow that clings to his every step. Back to you, your heart pounding as you imagine Sporus behind those curtains, his silence louder than any scream. The palace walls seem to pulse with the wrongness of it all. Nero's obsession twisting love into something grotesque. You picture the boy's trembling hands, his eyes searching for a freedom that doesn't exist. Imagine this on ex-emperor's bride faces nights of dread. Is this love or a nightmare? The replies would be brutal, tearing into Nero's madness, but here the court pretends it's romance. You feel the dread settle in your bones, the air heavy with unspoken horrors. The curtains sway again and you catch a fleeting glimpse of Sporus' shadow, a ghost swallowed by Nero's fantasy. You're left with the echo of his silence, a scream that never breaks free. Rome will gossip, but this moment stays hidden, a dark stain on the emperor's reign. Like Scandalous, could you face the shadow of that bed, you'd probably run. You're pressed into a throng in Rome's Forum 67 CE, where the sun beats down and the crowd's murmurs buzz like flies. Sporus Nero's bride steps from a litter, his silks shimmering his face painted to mimic Poppaea. The crowd's eyes lock onto him. Some jeer, others stare in pity. Their faces a mix of scorn and unease. You feel the heat of their gaze as if you're caught in the spotlight too, your stomach twisting at the boy's forced performance. This isn't a triumph. It's a public crucifixion, and you're witnessing Sporus' humiliation. Third person now, Sporus moves through the crowd, his steps measured each one a battle against the weight of Rome's stare. The veil clings to him, a crimson mockery of a bride's joy, and his painted lips tremble under the scrutiny. Hawkers shout crude jests. Behold Nero's lady, while others whisper of curses, their pity fleeting but real. The elite perched on their balconies sneer behind their fans, but even they can't look away. Sporus is a spectacle, a living paradox, mocked as a freak, pitted as a victim, yet untouchable as Nero's wife. Back to you, your breath catching as Sporus passes his eyes, meeting yours for a heartbeat. They're hollow pleading, but the crowd's jeers drown any hope. A woman spits disgrace while a child points giggling, unaware of the tragedy. Imagine this on ex-slave bride paraded for Rome's laughs. Who's the real monster? The replies would rage, but here the crowd's a beast feeding on Sporus' pain. You want to shout to shield him, but the mob's gaze is relentless, and you're just another face in it. Sporus disappears into the palace's shadow, the crowd's chatter trailing him like smoke. You're left with the aftertaste of their cruelty, their pity too weak to matter. Rome's gaze has branded Sporus, but it's Nero's madness that burns deepest. Like Scandalous, could you endure this public stare? Bet you'd look away. You're in the heart of Rome's theatre district, 67 CE, where Nero's latest spectacle unfolds under a blazing sun. The emperor strides out, Sporus at his side, the boy's crimson veil fluttering like a wound against the marble backdrop. Nero's grin is wide defiant as he presents his bride to a gasping crowd, his arm around Sporus like a conqueror claiming a prize. You're wedged among the onlookers, your jaw tight as Nero flaunts his madness, daring Rome to blink. This isn't love, it's a middle finger to the city's norms, and you're stuck watching the emperor play God. Third person now, Nero's defiance is a calculated act, a slap to Rome's traditions. He parades Sporus through the streets, his Poppaea in silks, ignoring the murmurs of abomination from senators and priests. The crowd's a mix of jeers and stunned silence, but Nero revels in it, his laughter echoing over the cobblestones. He calls Sporus his wife, his queen, with a voice that dares dissenters to speak. They don't fear of his wrath seals their lips, and Sporus, silent and pale, is a living testament to the emperor's unchecked power. Back to you, your stomach churning as Nero lifts Sporus's veil for the crowd, his audacity as blinding as the sun. Behold my love, he bellows, and you want to laugh at the absurdity, but the boy's hollow eyes stop you cold. Imagine this: on ex-emperor flaunts slave wife like a trophy. Bold or bonkers, the replies would roast Nero, but here the crowd's too scared to boo. A vendor mutters he's mocking the gods, but keeps his voice low. Nero's spies are everywhere. You feel the city's tension a coiled spring ready to snap, but no one dares. Nero's defiance isn't just a stunt. It's a declaration that he's above Rome, above reason. You're there watching Sporus shrink under the emperor's arm, a boy turned prop in a tyrant's tantrum. The crowd's whispers fade, but their fear lingers as heavy as the dust in the air. Like Scandalous, could you face Nero's audacity without flinching? Bet you keep your head down. You're standing on a Roman hill, 67 CE, overlooking a city glittering with marble and rot. Nero's marriage to Sporus, that grotesque spectacle of a slave-turned bride, has become a symbol of his reign's decay. The emperor's power is absolute, bending reality to his whims, but you feel the cracks forming Rome's patience phrase, with every parade, every veil draped over a broken boy. You're watching an empire teeter its splendour, tainted by a tyrant's obsession, and the cost of Nero's power is written in Sporus's silence. Third person now, Nero's abuse of power radiates through Rome, his marriage to Sporus, a glaring wound in the city's psyche. The emperor's unchecked will, castrating a boy, dressing him as Poppaea, flaunting him as a wife, exposes the rot beneath Rome's grandeur. Senators whisper of decline, priests mutter of divine wrath, but Nero's throne is a fortress built on fear and flattery. Sporus, caught in this web, is the human toll a slave erased his life, a footnote to Nero's ego. The city's decline mirrors his suffering, each spectacle a step toward Rome's unravelling. Back to you, your breath catching as you see Sporus in the distance, a crimson speck in Nero's chariot. The city's pulse is uneasy. Merchants grumble, soldiers tighten their grips, and you sense the empire buckling under Nero's weight. Imagine this on ex-emperor's fake marriage tanks Rome's morale. Beginning of the end, the replies would predict collapse, and they'd be right. Nero's excesses are bleeding Rome dry. You feel the cost in the air, heavy with dust and dissent, as the city watches its emperor spiral. Sporus's tragedy is Rome's mirror reflecting a ruler who'd rather burn tradition than rule it. You're left with the weight of it, the boy's pain a shadow over the city's fading glory. Nero's power comes at a price, and Sporus pays it daily. Like Scandalous, could you watch an empire crumble like this? Bet you'd feel the tremors. You're standing in the fading light of Rome years after 67 CE, where the air carries the weight of a city moving on from Nero's reign. Sporus, the boy turned bride, lingers like a ghost in the shadows of history, his name whispered in taverns but rarely written. You imagine him now, no longer Nero's prop, yet forever marked by that crimson veil, his identity erased by a tyrant's whim. Your heart aches for him, a boy who survived the emperor's madness only to vanish into Rome's underbelly. This is Sporus's legacy, not a story of triumph, but a quiet tragedy that clings like damp stone. Third person now, Sporus's life after Nero is a fragmented tale pieced together by historians like Dio Cassius. Freed from Nero's grip after the emperor's fall in 68 CE, Sporus faced a world that saw him as a curiosity, a relic of scandal. He was passed to new masters, his role as Poppaea haunting him like a curse. Some say he served another emperor, Otho, still dressed as a woman, his identity a wound that never healed. Others whisper he met a grim end, his name fading, as Rome rebuilt. Sporus's legacy is his erasure, a boy reduced to a footnote in a tyrant's tale. Back to you walking Rome's streets, where the gossip of Nero's bride still lingers like a bad dream. You picture Sporus, his painted face replaced by a weary one, his steps heavy with the weight of memory. Imagine this on ex-slave. bride outlives emperor, but at what cost, forgotten or cursed? The replies would mourn him, but Rome barely notices, too busy with new scandals. You feel the sting of his absence, a life stolen not just by Nero, but by a city that laughed and moved on. His legacy is a silence louder than any scream. Sporus' story ends not in glory, but in shadows, a boy who bore Rome's cruelty and vanished. You're left with his ghost, a reminder that some wounds outlive empires. Like Cher Tellus, could you carry Sporus' burden? Bet you'd break under it. You're in a dusty Roman archive decades after 67 CE, where scrolls pile high and the scent of ink lingers. Nero's marriage to Sporus, that grotesque spectacle of a slave turned bride, lives on in parchment, its infamy etched by historians like Suetonius and Tacitus. Their words burn with scorn, calling it a stain on Rome's honour, a tale retold in hushed tones across centuries. You feel the weight of their judgment, but also the chill of Sporus' silenced voice, a boy lost in the scandal's long shadow. This is the echo of Nero's madness ringing through time like a grim warning. Third person now, the marriage's infamy endures a dark thread in Rome's tapestry. Suetonius writes of Nero's abomination, detailing the veil, the dowry, the parades each word a nail in the emperor's legacy. Tacitus sneers at the court's complicity, painting a city complicit in its own disgrace. The scandal becomes a parable whispered in forums and scribbled in histories, a symbol of imperial decay. Sporus, though, fades to a shadow, his pain buried under Nero's notoriety, his name a mere prop in tales of Rome's fall. Back to you, your fingers brushing a scroll, the scandal's echoes as vivid as yesterday's gossip. You imagine it on ex-Nero's slave marriage, still shocks centuries later. Worst emperor ever. The replies would pile on memes and hot takes, burying Sporus deeper. In Rome, the story's a cautionary tale told to warn of tyrants who twist love into power. You feel the city's shame, its historians' outrage, but also Sporus' absence, a boy erased by ink and time. The scandal's echoes are loud, but they drown out the human cost. The tale lives on a headline that never fades, branding Nero a monster and Rome a witness. You're left with the weight of it, a story that's more than gossip, it's a mirror to humanity's cruelty. Like Cher Tellus, could you read these scrolls without wincing? Bet you'd shudder. No. You're standing in a quiet corner of Rome's bustling street, 67 CE, where the clamour of the city fades, and Sporus Nero's bride lingers in your mind like a bruise. You see him in your mind's eye, his painted face, his crimson veil, his eyes hollowed by pain. He's no longer just a scandal, a punchline for Rome's gossip. He's a boy, a human, caught in an emperor's cruel fantasy. Your chest tightens with empathy, the weight of his stolen life pressing against you. This is the human toll of Nero's madness, and you're bearing witness to a tragedy no one else sees. Third person now, Sporus' humanity is a flicker in Rome's glare, a boy erased by silk and surgical blades. His days are spent as Poppaea Nero's obsession, but beneath the rouge and robes he's a soul crushed under imperial whim. The court laughs, the streets jeer, but Sporus' pain is a silent scream ignored by a city drunk on spectacle. He moves through Nero's world, a banquet here, a parade there, his identity buried, his voice stolen. Every glance he casts, every trembling step is a plea for recognition, but Rome sees only the emperor's wife. Back to you, your breath catching as you imagine Sporus' quiet moments alone with his scars. You feel the urge to reach out to tell him he is more than Nero's prop, but the city's roar drowns your thoughts. Imagine this on ex-slave bride suffers in silence. Does Rome care? The replies would be split, some pitying, others mocking. But here, Sporus is alone, his humanity, a ghost in Nero's shadow. You stand frozen, the weight of his suffering as heavy as the Roman air, thick with dust and cruelty. Sporus' toll is more than one boy's pain. It's a mirror to Rome's complicity, a city that watched and laughed. You're left with his image, a boy lost to history's glare. His humanity, the true cost of Nero's reign. Like Cher Tellus, could you carry Sporus' pain? Bet you'd crumble. You're perched on a Roman rooftop 67 CE, watching the city glitter. below its marble facades hiding a rotting core. Nero's marriage to Sporus, that grotesque spectacle of a slave-turned-bride, isn't just a scandal, it's Rome's decadent mirror reflecting an empire drowning in excess. The emperor's obsession parading a mutilated boy as Poppaea lays bare the city's soul, opulent, cruel and complicit. You feel the weight of it the way Nero's madness stains Rome's grandeur. This isn't just a marriage, it's a portrait of a city that cheers while it decays. Third person now, Nero's reign is a carnival of excess, and Sporus' marriage is its centrepiece. The emperor's power castrating a boy, draping him in silk, calling it love, mirrors Rome's own indulgence, a city that feasts while its poor starve. The court's toasts, the street's gossip, the Ristorian scorn, all reflect a society that enables its tyrant. Sporus, a voiceless victim, is the cost of this decadence, his pain a shadow cast by Rome's golden glow. The city's decline is written in his scars, a warning of what unchecked power breeds. Back to you, your eyes, tracing Rome's skyline, its temples and theatres gleaming like a lie. Nero's spectacle is Rome's truth, a city that worships wealth and power no matter the human toll. Imagine this on Nero's fake marriage mirrors Rome's rot. Is this the empire's peak? The replies would dissect it. But here, Rome just watches enthralled by its own decay. You feel the city's pulse faltering under Nero's weight, Sporus' silence, a grim reflection of its soul. This marriage is Rome's mirror, showing a city that traded honour for spectacle. You're left with the image of Sporus, a boy lost in the glare, and Rome, a city lost to itself. Like Scandalous. Could you face this decadent mirror? Bet you'd see your own reflection. You're in a smoky St. Petersburg salon, 1796, where candlelight flickers and whispers slither like snakes. The air's thick with intrigue as courtiers lean close, their voices low, spinning a tale so vile it burns your ears. Catherine the Great, Russia's iron empress, died trying to bed a horse. It's a lie born from venom and envy, but it's spreading like 18th century fake news, each retelling more grotesque. You feel the thrill of scandal, the kind that'd crash X today, but here it's a weapon to tarnish a queen. Third person, now. The rumour's roots lie in Catherine's enemies. Nobles' rivals and foreign courts stung by her power. They whisper of pulleys, a horse, a fatal collapse, painting her as a lustful monster to undermine her reign. It's a fiction, pure malice, but its audacity makes it stick, passed from salons to taverns with a smirk. Her real death, a stroke, lacks the shock value, so the lie festers, fueled by misogyny and fear of a woman who ruled too well. The rumour's birth is a masterclass in slander, as cruel as it is cunning. Back to you, catching a noble's sly grin as he repeats the tale, his words dripping with scorn. You want to call it nonsense, but the room's hooked, lapping up the filth. Imagine this on ex-empress, killed by horse wildest rumour yet. The replies would eat it up, and here the salons do too. The lie's a blade cutting Catherine's legacy to ribbons. Like Scandalous, could you resist this gossip's pull? Bet you'd listen. You're standing in Catherine's grand court, 1796, where chandeliers blaze and her throne gleams like a challenge. The emperor, sharp-eyed and commanding, rules with a wit that cuts through Russia's chill. Yet whispers of that vile horse rumour trailer, like a shadow mocking her triumphs, reforms, conquests, a nation reshaped. You're there marvelling at her strength, but the slander's sting is palpable, a jab at a woman too bold for her time. It's absurd, like a tabloid headline gone rogue, and you're caught in its glare. Third person, now Catherine's power is undeniable. She modernised Russia, expanded its borders and outsmarted her rivals. But her strength, her rumoured lovers, make her a target for misogynist gossip. The horse myth, a lie born of envy, paints her as a caricature, not a queen who penned laws and charmed Voltaire. Her court buzzes with loyalty, yet the rumour seeps in, a poison spread by those who fear her throne. Her real legacy, intellect, ambition fights to shine through the slander's muck. Back to you, your pulse quickening as you watch Catherine dismiss a courtier with a flick of her hand. The rumour's absurdity, horses' pulleys, feels like a bad joke, but it's a blade aimed at her crown. Imagine this on ex-empress. Rules haters, spread horse lies. Who wins? The replies would cheer her, But here the gossip lingers. You admire her defiance, but the lie's persistent stings. Like Cher tell us, could you shrug off this slander, bet you'd fume. You're in a dimly lit St. Petersburg tavern, 1796, where the air reeks of ale and malice. A storyteller leans forward, eyes gleaming, spinning the grotesque tale of Catherine the Great's death. A horse lowered by pulleys crushing her in a depraved act. The crowd gasps some snicker, but you feel the lie's venom, a medieval urban legend gone viral. It's pure fiction, yet its lurid details ropes creaking a stallion's weight grip the room like a horror flick. You're caught in the tale's twisted thrill, even as you know it's a smear. Third person now. The horse myth is a masterpiece of slander, its imagery crafted for maximum shock. Pulleys are stable, a fatal collapse. The details are absurd, yet they stick, whispered by Catherine's enemies to paint her as a lustful beast. The tale spreads from Russian courts to European salons each, retelling adding grotesque flair. It's a lie designed to humiliate, to reduce a queen's legacy to a bawdy joke. The crowd's fascination reveals their fear of her power, a woman who ruled too fiercely for their comfort. Back to you, your skin crawling as the storyteller milks the tale's gore. You want to shout it's fake, but the room's hooked, lapping up the filth like it's gospel. Imagine this on X-Horse Kills Empress Wildest 18th century clickbait. The replies would eat it up, and here the tavern does too. The lies are blade slashing Catherine's name. Like Cher tell us, could you resist this story's pull? Bet you'd cringe. You're in Catherine's palace, 1796, where the air is heavy with the scent of wax and worry. The Empress Russia's titan lies still felled by a stroke her breath gone before the day ends. No horses, no pulleys, just a quiet human end to a colossal reign. You stand among her courtiers, their faces pale, and feel the truth's weight against the vile rumour of her death. It's a sobering moment, stripping away the gossip to reveal a woman who shaped an empire, not a caricature. Third person now, Catherine's death on November 17th, 1796 was mundane, a stroke, nothing more. Yet the horse myth born of malice overshadows her end, drowning her reforms, conquests and wit in a tide of slander. Her legacy laws rewritten, borders expanded, stands tall, but the rumour clings like damp rot. Historians note her stroke with clinical calm, but the public prefers the lie's thrill, a testament to misogyny's grip. Her death is a truth too plain for a world craving scandal. Back to you, your heart heavy as you imagine Catherine's final moments, far from the grotesque tale. The rumour's absurdity stings a lie that buries her humanity. Imagine this on ex-empress dies of stroke, not horse nonsense. Why the lies? The replies would debate, but here the truth struggles to surface. Like Cher tell us, could you defend her legacy? Bet you'd try. You're in a gilded Versailles salon, 1796, where French nobles sip wine and his venom about Catherine the Great. The horse myth, that vile lie about her death, drips from their lips, a weapon forged in misogyny to mock a woman who dared rule. You feel the sting of their words, each one a jab at her power, her love as her throne. They sneer, a woman's lust knows no bounds, as if her crown was a scandal in itself. It's a sexist smear campaign, and you're stuck in its crossfire, gagging on their spite. Third person. Now, the rumour thrives on 18th century biases where a woman's rule was an affront to fragile egos. Catherine's strength, her reforms, her conquests threatened men across Europe, so they spun tales of her depravity to cut her down. The horse story, with its pulleys and grotesque collapse, was perfect, absurd enough to stick, cruel enough to wound. It painted her as a beast, not a queen, feeding a culture that feared women on thrones. Their venom wasn't just gossip, it was a war on her legacy. Back to you, your ears burning as a noble chuckles. She ruled like a man, loved like a beast. You want to scream she was a titan. Not a caricature, but their smirks silence you. Imagine this on X-Men Trash Empress with horse lies, scared of her throne. The replies would call it misogyny, but here the salons lap it up. Like Cher tell us, could you face this venomous crowd? Bet you'd snap. You're in a bustling London coffee house, 1796, where ink-stained pamphlets and whispers carry the tale of Catherine the Great's horse death. The rumours crossed oceans, its grotesque details, pulleys, a stallion, a fatal crush sparking gasps and grim laughter. You feel the thrill of its spread like a virus hopping from court to tavern, each retelling wilder than the last. It's 18th century clickbait, and you're caught in its grip, watching a queen's legacy drown in gossip's tide. Third person, now. The myth's journey is relentless from Russian salons to European capitals. Diplomats whisper it in Vienna, merchants hawk it in Paris, each version more lurid, fueled by Catherine's enemies. The horsetail's absurdity is its strength too shocking to ignore it, spreads like wildfire, outpacing her real death by stroke. It's a scandal engineered to humiliate a lie that thrives on Europe's fascination with a woman too powerful. The gossip spread is a dark art painting Catherine as a caricature for centuries. Back to you, your pulse racing as a printer waves a pamphlet, Empress's shameful end. The crowds hook their eyes, glinting with morbid glee. Imagine this on X-Horsmith about Empress goes viral. Biggest scandal of 1796, the replies would spiral, and here the coffeehouse hums with the same energy. Like Cher, tell us, could you resist spreading this lie? Bet you'd pause. You're in Catherine's court, 1796, where her presence commands the room like a storm held at bay. The Empress' sharp and unyielding pens decrees with a flick of her wrist, her eyes daring anyone to mention the horse rumour. You feel her defiance, a fire that burns through the whispers of her lustful end. She ruled Russia loved boldly and scoffed at the gossip. Imagine her laughing off the slander like it's a bad ex-post. You're awestruck, caught in her orbit, wondering how she thrives under such venom. Third person now, Catherine's resilience is a rebuke to her enemies. The horsmith a vile lie about pulleys and death aims to mock her, but she rules undeterred, expanding borders, charming philosophers taking lovers with a shrug. Her court buzzes with loyalty even as whispers of her excess leak through. The rumours about her lovers. She leans into them, smirking at the prudes who clutch their pearls. Her defiance is a crown, a refusal to let gossip dim her legacy. Back to you, your pulse quickening as Catherine glances your way, her smile sharp as a blade. The horse lie's absurd, pure tabloid trash, but she's bigger than it, a queen who outshines the filth. Imagine this on ex-empress owns haters' rules anyway. Queen energy. The replies would stan her, and here her court does too. Like Cher, tell us, could you match her fire? Bet you'd bow. You're in a modern library centuries past 1796, flipping through books that still whisper of Catherine the Great's horse death. The lie pulleys a stallion, a fatal crush clings to her name like damp rot, outliving her reforms and triumphs. You feel the sting of it, a queen reduced to a punchline by misogyny's long shadow. Her real end, a stroke is forgotten. The myth's too juicy, a scandal that haunts her legacy. You're left mourning a woman who deserved better than history's gossip. Third person now. The rumour's persistence is a cultural scar etched by 18th century biases against a woman who ruled too well. Catherine's legacy, modernising Russia, outwitting rivals, should tower, but the horsmith endures a lie kept alive by its shock. Historians dismiss it, noting her stroke in 1796, yet the public's fascination lingers, a testament to misogyny's grip. Her humanity, her wit, her flaws fades behind the caricature, a queen betrayed by time's cruel memory. Backs you, your fingers tracing her name, the lies sting as sharp as ever. Imagine this onyx horsmith haunts Empress 200 years later. Why won't it die? The replies would rage, but the lie persists. Like Cher, tell us, could you restore her truth? Bet you'd try. You're standing in a misty grove in ancient Ireland, centuries before Christ, where the air hums with primal energy. Twisted oaks loom their branches, clawing at the fog, and a low chant rises from the gathered crowd, druids, warriors, tribesmen, their faces painted with woad. You feel the earth pulse beneath your feet as if the goddess of the land herself whispers through the soil. The king's ritual is about to begin, a marriage to a mare that's more coronation than wedding, and the eerie weight of it chills you. This isn't just ceremony, it's a pact with the divine, and you're in its shadow. Third person now. The grove is sacred, a place where Celtic Ireland binds its kings to the land's spirit. The ritual whispered about by later scribes like Giraldus Cambrensis demands the king wear a white mare symbol of the goddess Epona to claim divine legitimacy. The air crackles with anticipation. The crowds chants a rhythmic plea to unseen